thank you for coming here. Myself and Hassan, we were the founding members of a movement that really never got a lot of credit. It's called the Urban Peace and Justice Movement. We were the ones that put together the ceasefire and the truces in Los Angeles and Chicago, which reduced gang violence over 25% in every city we went to in the early 90s. I was working with the gang in, unit, things of that nature, but we took a community policing approach. However, after the meeting with President Clinton at that time, giving us his word that he would come up with the dollars to do the more proactive things, community policing initiatives and all that kind of stuff, he lied. And the omnibus crime bill that he instituted, which drove up the population in all of the prisons throughout the United States, has created a major urban phenomenon, which now the gang violence is resurgent in a way like never before. What we want to do is to sit down and and talk with you, about this whole aspect of what needs to take place in the United States to remap this whole thing of what we call the criminalization of communities of color. Before you have a supermax prison that's full, you have to criminalize hundreds of thousands of young black males. And what I'm saying now is that with this fentanyl crisis, there's all this money going into dealing with treatment of those who are addicted to these opiates, which should be done. But there's a major thing that's being not looked at. How do you deal with dealer addiction? And the fact that many of these young African American and Hispanic males are actually providing something that the addicts want, but there's no money to deal with the dealer addiction. And in terms of urban policy, is there a way that we can talk about how that can be shaped into some of the things you're talking about on a national basis?
Definitely, and I would love to follow up with you, so we can actually sit down and have some dialogue on this.
Right.
And I agree with you entirely. We cannot be spending 50%, more than 50% of our dollars destroying communities abroad and neglecting our communities at home and oppressing those communities at home, because our urban budgets are also 50% of Los Angeles budget is actually spent on this occupying police force, when it should be spent on creating jobs, on having good quality education, and addressing addiction, not only when it occurs, but before it occurs. Because addiction is inevitable when there is poverty and hopelessness. We need to address poverty and hopelessness if we are going to address the drug problem. Thank you, Khalid. Let's be sure we exchange addresses. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for your work. Can we please give a round of applause? About the Clintons, this whole issue of, but let's look at where this whole incarceration crisis started. It started with the Clintons. So Hillary Clinton is not a solution to the racism and the xenophobia and the Islamophobia of Donald Trump. It's kind of the same thing, she does, he says, and neither one is okay.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Dr. Stein, when you were elected president, you will need people to help you govern, not just in your cabinet, but also in the legislative branch and in the judicial branch. Have you given any thought to possible cabinet people? And would that be helpful to announce now whom you're considering? Because you'll still have to deal with getting them approved by a legislature that may not be full of green candidates.
So, thank you. Very good point. Let me say a couple things. One, if there is this groundswell that could get us into the White House and turn it into a greenhouse, which would make the world a better place. We would also be electing a lot of Greens to Congress, like some of the Greens that are here tonight. We would be bringing Greens into Congress, and we would be basically giving a thumbs up to a lot of progressive Democrats who haven't been able to really push their way forward. Like Bernie Sanders, for example. We could unleash him from the war machine, so he could really stand up for a peace agenda. So we would see really different dynamics. And I just want to acknowledge that liberating a generation of young people, I consider critical to the rest of our agenda, because it's young people who are always there leading the charge. Having an organizer-in-chief in the White House, not just a commander-in-chief, but an organizer-in-chief, means that we organize. If we develop the grassroots power to get involved, guess what? Nobody goes home. Nobody's off duty after that. Because then we are going to fight one issue after the other in order to move this agenda forward. But we want to re-engage democracy as the engine of our political agenda and throw out the lobbyists and the big campaign contributors who have determined the agenda. So we will have a different way of doing business. This list of cabinet members already exists. It's on the web. It's called the Green Shadow Cabinet. We actually set this up coming out of the election in 2012, and it's full of amazing and wonderful people. There are a few more we need to add to it, like Dr. Cornel West, for example. Ajamu Baraka, my running mate, was previously a member of that cabinet, which is how we started working together, and a variety of leaders from, all across the country. Richard Wolff, the noted economist, is head of our board of economic advisors. Medea Benjamin, noted peace advocate, is our Secretary of State. David Swanson, another peace advocate, would head the Department of Peace. So Margaret Flowers, a noted advocate for Medicare for All, would be the Secretary of Health. So there is a wonderful list of just luminaries who are not only experts, but who are real advocates for the people who are not tied to industry, who really will deliver, who are of by and for the people. That's what our cabinet will look like. It's greenshadowcabinet.us if you want to go look it up. Thank you. Great. Yes.
Hi, my name's Diana. We traveled here from Marshburg, Pennsylvania. We actually live in the National Allegheny Forest. We lived in the same home for about 17 years. We have oil in our water. We can't drink our water or cook with it. We can't water our animals, or we do water our trees, but it's very worrisome. I guess the question is, I'm really concerned about Trump. I know that the party talks about Hillary a lot. There's a lot of Hillary conversation that goes on, but the area that we live in, everywhere we go, there's Trump signs. Living them with my car, but I don't want to feel. The area that we live in, it's hard to talk to people about the Green Party because it's an oil area, and people are afraid. They are afraid, one, Hillary, but they're also afraid of losing their job. There's a lot of people in our area that don't know anything about clean energy or even actually don't know it. They think that there's so trying to talk to people that are afraid they're going to lose their income and their job, and maybe they're not able to see it. It's very difficult to try to talk to them about anything other than Trump. If there's anything, it's just start looking at Trump, because it seems like our focus is always on Hillary. And I also just want to say that I'm 46 years old. I've never voted in my life because there was never no one to vote for. Not in my opinion, there was never anyone to vote for. So I'm voting this year because I know the goods when I see them. It's just,
Well said. So yes, Trump. We are starting to talk more about Trump, and one of the really important reasons for that is because the majority of Trump's supporters actually don't support him. They mainly oppose Hillary. So it's, you know, it's challenging, but if you can begin a conversation in a way that's not oppositional, that maybe looks at how screwed up the political system is, if you can establish some kind of common cause with Trump supporters. A lot of people support Trump because he objects to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and a lot of people, you know, working class, downwardly mobile, middle class people were screwed by NAFTA, and a lot of just ordinary working people were screwed by NAFTA, and that's where Trump has created this illusion that he's going to fix it, but you know, he's not. I mean, he talked about moving his jobs. I mean, for the starters, his jobs are all overseas, you know. This guy believes in helping American workers. Well, where has he been? You know, he moves his work largely overseas, except for the big, expensive luxury condos that he builds that gentrify our communities. You know, he's not doing us any favors. So I think a lot of this is helping address that hunger for jobs and for health care and for a government that's not captured by the big corporations and the lobbyists. We do have common cause with an awful lot of Republicans, and there are, I don't know how many there are in the room now, but I'm always meeting Republicans on the trail who say that they can't stand Trump and they can't stand Hillary, and they're looking for something else. It's hard to have these conversations, and you know, the usual advice for organizing is that you don't want to spend too much time talking to people who are already agreeing with you. Most Americans don't know where they stand, or they've rejected both of these people and they want something else. So that's the hard thing. Often just by going to a college community and talking to people, young people who are in debt, sometimes that's the way you can very productively use your time. Or the other thing I would suggest, if you feel like it's just not possible to create a conversation that will go anywhere, it's worth trying if you can feel out where your common ground is. If you can't find it, you can always do phone banking from the benefit of your house without having to travel to another community. That's another way that you can be very powerful. Or you can go to a college campus and become part of that organizing effort there too. So I sympathize with the struggle, and I have to say for myself, you have to sort of size people up, and it's not always where their politics is. Some people are just ready to talk and really upset about the way things are going. Oil workers, I find, are actually really worried, not just about their jobs, but how their jobs are affecting their health. In Houston, while refiners were on strike, and we went to the pit line and talked to the workers, and they were just so upset about how bad their jobs are. And their parents and their family members have cancer and heart disease, and they know that this job is going to catch up to them, and they're going to be pretty sick soon. But they don't have the other jobs. But they were very clear that if they had their way, they would be working a green job right now in clean renewable energy. And to assure them that they come first in this just transition, that no one is going to lose their job or their benefits. If the fossil fuel organization shuts down, they will be provided for until they have a comparable job.